Hey everyone, you're listening to The Public Affair with me, Andrew G. I see someone different every episode, but do me a favor, keep it between us. Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Andrew G, and welcome to another exciting episode of The Public Affair. As you guys can see, we are recording in a new studio today, and I'm really excited about it. A big shout out to Rogue Media Network with Mike Hamilton and Allison Robles for making it happen. I really am excited to be sharing this first episode in the new studio with a very special guest. Of course, before we get started, I want to use this opportunity to thank you guys again so much for all the love and support. It truly means the world to me. Thank you guys. We're going almost at 100 episodes. That's fucking crazy. Okay. Before we get started with this great episode, I definitely want to use this opportunity to give a shout out to a few of our sponsors of The Public Affair. This episode is brought to you by Joel Olvero of Four Brothers Constructions. He provides custom home designs and renovations. He also focuses on roofing, remodeling, plumbing, tree removal, electrical work, and so much more. Joe and his entire team of delicious snacks are building affordable dream homes for you. So make sure you call the number on the screen. Joe, thank you so much for being a longtime sponsor of The Public Affair. I truly appreciate you. Of course, the B&J Refinishing with my boy Frank Biza. He focuses on resurfacing bathtubs, counters, sinks, tiles, and more to original showroom quality. Offers 5-year warranty on most work and has the best prices in town. My boy Frank does not stop there. He also has inflatables, a mechanical bull, margarita machine, tables, chairs, a foam machine, and so much more, making all your parties super lit. My boy Frank does it all. Definitely the definition of a true hustler. I really love that guy. Thank you so much, Frank, for being a longtime sponsor of The Public Affair with B&J Refinishing. Of course, to my boy David Santabanez with Alinea Real Estate. He's the #1 sales agent in his office. He'll help you buy a home or sell your home. Make sure you follow him on Facebook at David with Alinea or call the number on the screen, darling, for all your real estate needs. My boy David is over there killing it. Every time I log on social media, he sold a different property. I love it. And we're going to get back to looking for my chateau here in a minute. All right, give us a second. David, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of The Public Affair. Ooh, of course, the Pee-wee's crab cakes on the go in Hewitt, Texas with my girl Nika Armstrong. I had it last night for dinner. Absolutely scrumptious. She is serving the most authentic Cajun cuisine with a wide selection of signature crab cakes, pastas, seafood, and more. My favorite is the blackened chicken seafood pasta. I was never into Cajun food until I had Pee-wee's crab cakes on the go. Her top recommended is Southern fried catfish specials served with seafood pasta, potato salad, 6 fried shrimps. Fish is topped with Houdat sauce, and I'm not going to tell you what it is because you got to head over to 108 Jim Drive or order online at orderpeeweescrabcakesonthego.com. Anika, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of The Public Affair. Congratulations to all your successes. And of course, to Marcos Cordero with Midway Nutrition located at 511 North Hewitt Drive. He offers meal replacement shakes and delicious teas. My favorites are the Honey Nut Cheerio, the Gladiator that I had this morning before I got here, and the Cherry Berry Tea. Make sure you head over there for all your delicious meal replacements. Marcos, thank you so much for being an avid sponsor of The Public Affair. I really appreciate you, bro. You are the GOAT. Thank you very much. All right, guys. So like I said, I've been really excited to have this next person onto The Public Affair. I never really thought that she'd be able to do it or that she would be willing to do it because we take such different directions in life, which may be unfair to say, but I'm going to find out today. She is the undisputed queen of Central Texas. She's a former news anchor, radio host, and now the host of her own podcast, Central Texas Living, and she's just as radiant in person as she is on TV. Without further ado, I would love to welcome Miss Ann Harder onto The Public Affair. How you doing?
Thank you for having me,
yes, I'm
Andrew.
excited.
Yeah, no. Why would you think I wouldn't? Come on.
You know what it is? And first of all, there's obviously a generational difference.
Well, a little bit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I definitely.
I'm old, yeah.
No,
I get that.
Well, you look great. I'm not saying that you're old. But
I am.
You know, I definitely feel like, you know, you're up there when it comes to media. We're both media people.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody that works in radio, anybody that works on TV knows that you are like the juggernaut of media in Central Texas. I mean, is that fair to say? Or are you just humbled? And
I don't see myself that. I just went to work every day, and before you knew it, it was 25 years I'd been doing television. I'd done radio for many years prior to that, and so we have so much in common. We really do.
And that's why
professionally, you know.
Absolutely.
And I'm in awe of this podcast. I mean, you have got so many hits on it, and your commercials. I mean, you're going way further than I have with my Central Texas Living. We have just rebranded Central Texas Life.
Oh, okay. Central Texas Life. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, that's fine. It was brand new, and in fact, we taped our first episode in this very room.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of getting used to the new digs.
Yeah. Well, isn't it great? Like we got the little centerpiece and everything now. I feel like it's more of like a talk show thing.
Oh,
We're just missing an audience.
It's so much fun, and of course we have to give the shout out, as you said, to Mike Hamilton.
Absolutely,
with
Mike.
Rogue Media, and he was just recently honored by Podcast Magazine as one of the 22 unsung heroes of podcasting.
I didn't know that, Mike. Congratulations.
Yeah.
He's out there in the studio.
And he truly is an unsung hero, because he contacted me the day my announcement of my retirement from KXXV came out. I mean, that day he emails me, goes, Mrs. Harder, you don't know me, but have you ever considered doing a podcast?
Right, yeah.
I said, of course, I'm an old time radio gal. I listen to the radio.
Yeah.
Well, I sure that sounds like fun, because when you leave a job you love,
right,
and have done for so many years, and it's certainly your kind of becomes your identity,
right?
Partly,
yeah.
You know,
for sure,
I mean,
sure.
I have a life, obviously, but you know, there are these questions. You know, am I going to miss television so much? And what I really love doing is interviewing and talking to people.
Yeah, definitely.
And I thought, well, this is wonderful, because podcasts are so freewheeling.
Don't you love the way the direction that they take when you're recording?
Well, they can, you know, and the conversations with my guests, you know, can take all kinds of tacks. We try to go live to tape, not do a lot of stop and start. I try to make it easy on mic if I can. I don't want him to have to work very hard with this, because I'm having such a good time myself. But it's been so wonderful to be able to talk to a lot of the same people that I talked to on the TV show that we started several years ago at KXXV, Central Texas Living. It's not on the air anymore. But to have these local folks who are making a difference.
Right.
Or somebody who's just decided to reinvent their lives. I mean, I just love talking to people who've taken that step to do something different, and for some of them, they just sort of answered yes to a need they saw, and then end up with a ministry or an agency or that becomes so much more huge than they ever would have thought. And I just love talking to people like that, because I don't see myself as that kind of visionary, or you know, I just do my thing, what it is. But it is what really turns me on from the standpoint of creativity and being able to draw that out of folks.
It's so crazy. Like, and you know, I think we're over 90 episodes already. If I'm not mistaken, this is my 90th episode.
Yeah, I'm probably up there. I see Mike in the other room. I've done. April 1st, 2022 will be my second anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Podcasts here. And we've done one a week. And so just got to do the math. I haven't missed too many. So, you know, we're up there too.
Up there, yeah. Consistency is key. But, you know, when I started on the radio as well, and just to see how many people are actually willing to spill their guts on the show, I love it. You know what I mean? And we've had people come on here and like call each other out for cheating and stuff like that.
Oh, my word.
It's great, but this is why I love having the public.
Kind of the Jerry Springer of the a little bit.
We're not quite trash TV just yet, but you know what? No, because I like to brand the Public Affair as like a real show. We all have skeletons in our closet, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I expose my skeletons, and I don't care what people think about me anymore. You know, so that's just the way the direction that I go. Just be you. Exactly.
Be you.
You know, I want to talk a little bit about how we met too. So as I stated, I was on the radio. Well, first of all, when I started podcast at Rogue Media Network, he had mentioned that Ann Harder from the news has a podcast here too, and he was like saying how professional you were, how you do the little countdown in your head and all that jazz. And I was like, God, I bet that'd be so cool to record her one day. And we were at I think it was the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo Luncheon.
It was the media, the media preview party that I've been to many of those. And I was really kind of surprised. I was sent the notice on it. I wasn't working in media anymore, you know. And
they still needed Ann there. Excuse me. We can't have this thing without the Queen.
I love it because I see friends from other stations, and it's really just
I definitely felt like
wonderful.
I did not fit in there.
No, did you?
No,
really?
I felt, well, you know, I was with Chrissy, who I love. Me and Chrissy have always had the best relationship on Power 108, and she was definitely like introducing me to everybody. But I say that with all due respect, I feel like I was the youngest person there. And
you probably were.
And everybody knew. Well, everybody knew each other, and then it was just me. You know what I mean?
In fact, one of my previous general managers from KXXV who left worked in Midland and then came back and is at Fox 44, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. So you know it was it's like old home week for me to see Zach and Jim and the guys from Waco 100 where I used to work. And,
well, you know, that was like towards the end of my radio career too, but that's neither here nor there. So,
but it was wonderful to have you there. I think that's right, and I know that's I could say from a marketing standpoint, the Heart of Texas Fair and Rodeo wants to have folks like you there to help promote what they're doing.
Anytime they want some promotion, I would definitely love to talk about that. Unfortunately, I'm not on the radio anymore, so that's, again, a different conversation.
Well, but you've got a megaphone here. This is...
I would love to. Definitely go. The barbecue was good. But you know what? So I went up to I went up to
Rudy's
her. I think I told Mike, I was so like shook. I went up to her and I was like, hey, Ann, I don't know if you know me. You probably don't. She's like, you're Andrew G with Public Affair. And I died in like an out-of-body experience. I was like, Ann Harder knows me. Because you know what it is, guys? It's because it's Ann. You know what I mean? It's just Ann Harder. We all grew up watching you on the news. You know what I mean? Like, you've always had this really great poise about you that I always loved. Like, even like the way we're sitting is the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except I got this big giant swollen foot.
I just had surgery. See your foot is better. I've been following that on Facebook.
Thank you. You know what? You can't stop me. I said I'll rest when I die. That's it. You know what I mean? Doctor said take 2 weeks off. I took 1 week off. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
All right? So yeah,
we got be careful with that though.
No, I will. I've definitely been taking care of it. So I definitely want to get to know you. Maybe for some of the viewers, which of course everybody knows Ann Harder, but why don't we get to know a little bit about you and your backstory? Can you talk to us a little bit about life growing up and stuff for you like that?
Well, I am a native Wacoan.
Okay.
I grew up in Waco, in North Waco, and my dad taught economics.
She's from Northside, guys.
Bailey,
all right?
Yes. Oh yeah, Dean Highland Elementary. Went to Dean Highland, and then Lake Erie Junior High, and then Richfield High School. Okay, I said I'm old. This August we're planning our 50th high school reunion.
Man, you don't look a day over 21. Stop this. Okay.
Well, no, I am. And it's like, where has the time gone? I mean, that really has
Isn't
been
that crazy
the case
to think about?
for me because time has flown. But I would say an idyllic childhood.
Okay.
Growing up with a mom that stayed home and cooked and took us to things we needed to go to, totally. Piano lessons, all that kind of thing. So yeah, very, very modest kind of childhood and growing up.
Like upper middle class-ish?
Middle. Definitely middle. real middle. Okay. And in fact, I started, my first job was at KWTX.
Really?
When the station was on Bosque Boulevard, right across from the Heart of Texas Fairgrounds. Do you remember?
I don't. I'm not from Waco.
Oh, okay, that's right.
I'm
you're
from
New
York,
and then I saw that you moved here.
I moved here like, oh my God, what's it been, like 15, 16 years already? Or something like that?
So Channel 10 they've long gone from there. But when it signed on the air in like 1954, which is my birth year, when KWTX signed on there, it's right now, and so now it's the Oakcrest Funeral Home.
Oh, okay, got you.
So that was the building.
Yeah.
And Frank Fallon, if you're familiar with the name, the voice of the Baylor Bears, he was the voice of Baylor Athletics.
Got you.
And he was also the program director at KWTX Radio.
Yeah.
But he decided they needed to have someone answering the phone in the evenings. And so he was looking for a high school student to come and answer the phone. So a friend of mine from church worked there, and she called me and she said, Mr. Fallon is looking for a high school student for a part-time job. And I thought, I'd never babysat. I'd never had a part-time job.
Right.
So this was my very first. I've even kept the little pay receipt, was like $1 or something that I earned. I mean,
which probably went a long way back in the day, huh?
Well, no, even then it was not much money. But I remember calling Frank Fallon and calling Mr. Fallon, and I'd written out what I was going to say to him. I mean, I was 15 years old.
Totally.
So he hired me to work the switchboard. So I answered the phone, and that was quite an education for a teenager to answer the switchboard at a TV station.
Okay, so you were like, you were telling everybody in school, look what I do. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it was just fun being around broadcast type people. So I mean, literally, I've grown up. At a television station. Doug Brown was the weatherman. I mean, there are old timers out there not watching this, I'm sure, but there are old timers that they know who Doug Brown is, and Chip Moody, who went on to WFAA, was the weekend guy, Ron Hall, and so I was around all these broadcasters, just kind of grew up around that and thinking, I think this is what I want to do. But when Frank found out I was only 15, he said, he said, don't tell anybody that you're only 15 and working here. And I turned sweet 16 when I was working at
Were you not allowed to work at 15 at the time? Is
right, yeah. Was? I mean, there were child labor laws even back in the older days. I think I had
my first job when I was 15, though. We got to work like 5 hours a week or whatever.
Yeah, well, anyway. So we kind of pushed that little envelope. But I have always seen Mr. Fallon as my daddy in the broadcast business, and then later, when I was working at WACO, and he was doing morning sports on WACO, and we were colleagues, we were peers at that time, and it was still so hard for me to call him Frank,
really?
Because he was Mr. Fallon. He was always Mr. Fallon to
got
me.
You.
But I just adored Frank Fallon, and he taught me so much about how to interview.
Right.
He said, and it's not about you. it's about your guest.
Yeah, so he was basically a really good mentor for you when it comes to media.
Absolutely the best.
Okay.
The first interview I ever did, he sent me with a little cassette tape recorder, like this, to Baylor University because a celebrity, big-time celebrity at the time named Art Linkletter was at Baylor.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to interview him. So here I'm a teenager and I'm like, Mr. Linkletter. I was so scared. Right? And I'm sure Frank, and I took it back to Mr. Fallon, and I'm sure it never saw the light of day. I don't know what happened with that. But Art Linkletter was I think CBS was the network he was on.
Okay.
He wrote a book called Kids Say the Darndest Things.
Yeah.
He had a talk show, midday talk show back in the 50s, 60s, a long time ago. And just charming, and he was so sweet to me. But my first interview ever was with a celebrity.
A celebrity, right? Yeah.
So
I would like to think mine was too. Timo, he's a rapper.
Well, there you go. There you go. But people are
nerve-wracking.
People are just people.
Yeah, exactly.
And so anyway,
I definitely still get nervous when it comes to recording episodes of The Public Affair. Like even after 90 episodes, I was telling my producer that this morning, since I'm interviewing Ann Harder, that I was like using the bathroom on myself. Okay?
Please no.
I know, not here, not on the nice couches, but I definitely want to talk to you more about your career beginnings, your radio career, definitely the news career, which we all know you from. But before we do that, we're going to take a little bit of a break. And when we get back, we're going to talk to more about Ann Harder, about all her career beginnings and what she's doing now. More on The Public Affair coming up. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this episode with Ann Harder of The Public Affair. Before we continue, I definitely want to use this opportunity to give a shout out to a few of our sponsors. This episode is also brought to you by Elite Barbershop with my boy Sid Rodriguez, located on Hewitt Drive. You can call the number on the screen to book or download the Cut app to book your next appointment. Walk-ins are welcome as well. They also have Marcus Guerrero, Chris Reyes, Santos Cordova, David Rodriguez, and Isaac Chavez over there making you look super snackish. They made me look good for more than 90 episodes of The Public Affair, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this episode. Of course, the Brothers Concrete Construction with Jesus Gonzalez. He specializes in concrete work like slabs, driveways, pool decks, patios, sidewalk, and more. He does gorgeous work. Follow on Facebook to see at Brothers Concrete Construction or call the number on the screen for your free estimate. I can't wait to buy my house so that way I can see him and his entire team build me a pool. I'm gonna watch. I don't care. Thank you, Brothers Concrete Construction. Of course, the Banda's hauling service with Julian and Ana Banda. They rent dump trailers. You fill it up and they haul it away. They also do junk removals and tree brush removals and haul cars in and out of town. Book now with the number on the screen to Julian and Ana Banda. Congratulations on all the successes of Banda's hauling service. I feel like it's one of those companies that you don't think you need and then you really low-key need it all the time. Congratulations to you guys. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of The Public Affair. Of course, the J Pedal and Poke with Junior Fuentes, Thomas Roberts, and the entire family. They provide delicious savory Japanese crepes and poke bowls. They also have handcrafted Thai rolled ice cream for dessert. You choose from the menu or create your own like I like to do because I love being in control. Their locations are on University Parks Drive and Hewitt Drive. You can order online at jpedaltx.com. To J Pedal and Poke, thank you so much for being longtime sponsors of The Public Affair. And to one of my new sponsors, Embrace Fitness with Lisette Lunas and Amanda Switzerland. They teach group fitness classes that are fun and dynamic, darling. That's right. They specialize in total body workout like Exco Latin by Jackie and Zumba Step. Their classes are Monday through Thursday at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. You can also contact them to rent the building out for parties and small events to Embrace Fitness. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this episode of The Public Affair. Nice to have you on board. Okay, everybody, we're going to get back more with Miss Ann Harder, former news anchor. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to this episode of The Public Affair with Miss Ann Harder. So before the break, we were just talking about her radio career beginnings, getting into the media and all that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your radio career because I worked in radio as well for many
radio,
years.
isn't it the most fun?
It's the most I feel like
radio
it's fickle.
Is fun. Well,
but
my first radio job, Frank Fallon gave me at KWTX FM.
Okay.
And which is 97.5 now, I think.
Yeah.
And I had several different things. It was the Bear. I don't know what all it is now.
Okay.
But originally it was beautiful music.
Oh, okay.
It was the Golden Sound.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had one vocal, a half hour we could play. And it was Andy Williams, Tony Bennett. It was those kind of. So here I was, a high school student.
Yeah.
And my friends were listening to, Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. I was listening to Mantovani and Percy Faith. And I love that type music. So, it was very low key, very, we read time and temperature, a half hour, and then we read headlines.
Okay.
So, so that was my first radio job. Then I moved into AM.
Yeah.
I basically babysat Astros ball games for the most part.
Did you love that?
Yeah. So, and then I went to WACO and actually worked in news then. I was going out covering city council meetings, doing newscasts in the afternoon. And by then I was a Baylor student.
Yeah.
So I was working in radio there. I worked at several other radio stations. But I worked in news, in radio news for most of my career, on and off. After I got married to Mike Harder, who I met at Baylor in my dad's office. Yes. He was an economics major, and we met in Daddy's office. Yeah. And anyway, started having our boys. Started having our family. I took about 9 years off.
Right, totally.
And because you can never get that time back with your kids, and I don't regret that at all. And
did you quit the radio for 9, and then how did that all work?
Yeah, for most. Well, it's hard to remember now. I went back to radio in the late 80s. Okay, totally. So Evan, my youngest, was born in 86. It was about 87. I went back to WACO and started doing morning news. Yeah. And then that was during the period of time I was working with Frank and Jim Miller and Rick May. And we just had, going to work was just fun. I would laugh, even though I was doing reporting news, but still I called it laugh and giggle radio. We would just enjoy each other. Right. So I reported on both the FM and the AM side. And by that time, the FM was beginning to come into its own.
Okay, gotcha.
And we had, Waco 100, was on board. So when Zach and Jim came, I had already been there several years. So, and now they've been there, 25 years?
Something like that, right?
Yeah. They've celebrated a big anniversary.
It's so crazy because when I started the radio 6 years ago, I feel like it was still popping and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like definitely now, unfortunately, the business is dying.
Oh, it's so different now.
Yeah, it's so different.
It's so
Everything's
different.
political, and I didn't like it, Ann.
Well, you used to have shifts, the morning show, and they still do theirs live, I presume. I think so.
I think they're, because, when I was talking.
One of the few people still doing live
when I was talking to Chrissy towards the end of my career, she was saying, that they just kind of stopped hiring radio DJs. Right. And everything is just kind of syndicated now and everything. And that was one of the reasons why, one of the many reasons why I abruptly stopped my career there as well. Was because there was no future anymore. You know what I mean? Like, even the people behind the scenes, like the management and everything, was just like, less talking, more selling. Everything's about sales now. Everything's about, selling
bottom
commercials.
Line.
Yeah, everything's about, this is what brings the money.
And I'm a big believer in commercial advertising. I love hearing all your ads.
Don't you love them?
So many. I'm like, I need to be taking notes on these names, people that I need, places I want to try now, places I have to.
Right.
No, I'm a big believer in commercial.
Well, I am too.
But from a news standpoint, we had to stay neutral from commercial. You couldn't do anything that smacked of commercial advertising. But now I'm not really in news anymore. I can do spots for people.
She could do whatever. Okay. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it was so crazy to see. Like, I feel like growing up in radio. You know what I mean? Like, there was always somebody talking on the air. You know what I mean? And that's what we listened to the radio for, because they played our favorite song, but we also liked that person that was telling the story of the day.
Exactly.
And I know that.
And you feel like you know them.
Exactly.
And when I was doing morning news, people would tell me, well, I knew if I was, going to be on time to work by where you were in your newscast, and we'd hit Paul Harvey at 7:30 in the morning. I always had to hit that right on time. My radio days were wonderful, but I still had a desire. I wanted to work in television. Yeah. And I was approaching 40 years old. Okay. And I thought, you're going to be 40. Yeah. It's like,
this is not going to work.
But the Lord had a different plan, and it did work out to where the young lady who was the anchor at KXXV, Pam Harris, I happened to know that she was leaving because I was going to sing at her wedding. She was going to move to Dallas. And then, in fact, I just saw that she and her husband just celebrated their 25th anniversary.
Totally.
So anyway, the general manager, Jeff Cook, contacted me, and I went in and auditioned. They used my audition as a promo, as a matter of fact. And this is when
you're 40?
Yes.
To be a news anchor?
Right.
Okay, got you.
So, and I think in a way it's somewhat, there's credibility that comes along a little bit with age.
Yeah.
And he said, I could hire a 25-year-old, but I had kind of been around the block.
Okay,
and
got you.
People knew me in town. I was already a known entity.
Already. Okay, yes.
Well, I mean, no, I wouldn't say that.
No.
But I was a known, quantity.
Okay,
but people didn't know what I looked like because I'd been on the radio. Anyway, so it was so funny. The learning curve I had to move from radio to television was huge.
Right.
I remember and my husband would say, "Oh, you've got so many buzzwords and jargon, in radio. Cannot hold a candle to the jargon in television." And I remember in the newsroom, a reporter and a producer were talking to each other, and I only understood the connecting words like "and" and "the," and because they were talking about Vosot's, blah 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 blah. I mean, there's so much jargon.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have to say, I really. My motto at the time was, if I'm going to make a mistake, go ahead and let it be a big one.
Right.
So I learned from it, and the Lord really honored that because I made some.
Look at God.
As a green. I mean, I'd been reporting news for a long time, but television, you had the whole added dimension of the visual.
Yeah, for sure.
2 shots, all that kind of stuff that I didn't. I mean, it was a fast learning curve, and honestly, I do feel it was providential, and it was something I feel like the Lord answered my prayer that I wanted. I wanted that, and then there were times I thought, be careful what you want because it may surprise you. But I do recall that it was the kind of thing I felt like I was kind of placed in that at a time.
Yeah.
Never dreamed that I'd do that for 25 years because it is a visual medium, and men get more distinguished and gray, but women just get old, So
I was going to say, did you ever feel like there was like maybe you were objectified in that business at all? Because, like I think a lot of times women do get it harder than men. I think it's fair.
Well, I have to say I have to praise the folks at KXXV because if there were negative stuff that people, they kept that from me. There was one time somebody said I had a turkey neck.
Really?
early on. I'm like, I'm sorry, there's not much I can do about
Did you get a lot of, because you're obviously on TV, so did you get, like, back in the day, were there a lot of trolls like there are now? Like, somebody always saying, like, oh, she looks this way.
I don't, if there were, I was totally shielded from it.
Really?
And I have to say, I just went and did my job, tried to do it the best of my ability. I was surrounded by wonderful colleagues.
Oh, that's good.
Who I just admired their work ethic, and everybody wanted to do a good job. They wanted to get the news out to folks. They wanted to get it right.
Yeah.
Of course, you want to get it first, and we're still in a competitive. I'll tell you, did Channel 10 beat us on that story? I mean, there's
everything's
always
about numbers.
There's right, and of course, then our report card was the ratings. The ratings that would happen throughout the year.
Right.
So it was an interesting business, but it's changed a lot too over the years, and just the technology has changed so much.
It's kind of almost like maybe the same can't be said about the news, but like going back to the radio station, it's almost like not as fun to do anymore than it was back in the day because everything is so, based off of sales, and like you don't get to be the personality. I mean, would you agree with that?
No, not really. I was a little bit surprised in television at how much latitude there was for a banter, like with Matt Hines, with our weather guys in I had several different weather guys
Totally.
during my career, but Matt, the most recent. But I think also then with your co-anchor, really crucial. And of course, I was with Bruce Geetson for 13 years, and just adore him. And when he came to work at KXXV to become my anchor, co-anchor. People say, "Where did he come from?" And I'd say, "Heaven." He goes, "Oh."
Right, totally.
But he and I, we just had the best working relationship, and it was just kind of like our work husband, work wife, Because frankly, I think I spent more time with him than I did my own husband. But you develop that camaraderie, and you get to a point where you kind of know what they're going to do, say, and you react. But Andrew, I have been privileged to work with some fabulous colleagues who really, are dedicated news professionals, hardworking, want to get the story right.
Yeah, totally.
They want to, but I've been blessed to work with some fabulous people. Of course, Bruce Geetson and I was my longest standing colleague, co-anchor. He and I worked together for 13 years at KX. Bruce and Ann. People would say Bruce. Kind of like J-Lo or whatever. It was Bruce. It was Bruce Ann. So
that was her street name.
Right. Well, when he came to work there, I remember seeing video of him, and I just thought, he just looks like somebody could give you a big bear hug, and that is kind of Bruce. But we went to lunch together. They wanted me to kind of meet him, we just clicked right off.
That's
I
good.
said, he might be an axe murderer, but as far as I'm concerned, he was heaven sent. People say, where did he come from? I said, he came from heaven. Of course, he'd be really, modest about that.
I might have to get him on the show, but I think a lot of people don't.
You really should.
I should, right? Yeah,
because the man has had an amazing career in sports.
Make that happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We should make that happen.
So yeah.
But if Bruce comes on here, I'm not gonna lie, Ann, I'm gonna flirt with him. Okay.
You're not gonna get very far.
Okay. I'm gonna flirt with him. I am. I'm not gonna lie. There. Okay. I said it. I am because he's.
I'll warn him. No. He's
just tell him to watch the show. Okay?
Yeah. Of course, he's at Baylor and he's mentoring students at Baylor, and he was always such. They called him Papa G in the newsroom because he was always such a mentor for the students. I call them students. A lot of our newsroom employees.
He's kind of cute though.
We're pretty young. They were young. It was a second job, first or second job for them. Yeah. And it really it's continuing a learning process. But when I see, and I know there are some anchor teams where they do not like each other.
Right.
And for Bruce and me, it was a mutual admiration society. And we, and you work with somebody long enough, you kind of know what they're going to say. You know how things are going to.
Well,
they'll
just
pick
the
up on
chemistry.
something.
Absolutely.
Right. The chemistry. And although we always made it a rule that, and we told the producer, never write for us where I start a sentence and he finishes, or vice versa.
Yeah.
No, we never finish each other's sentences, but we had such a good time together on the air, and we're all close friends. He and his wife Dana and Mike and I, I do miss that. That is the one thing I miss is being around Bruce every day.
That's good. A lot of people don't realize, and that us in media, we're always kind of like not pitted, but like we're just kind of placed with people sometimes that we don't know. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
I will say on the radio, me and Chrissy had natural, really good chemistry. So when we were on the air together, it was,
you had a ball.
It was great. Like we were going to take over that station. Yeah. There were some other DJs that I worked with on the radio station where it was not the case. You know what I mean? Where we were at each other's throats, unfortunately. Right. But a lot of people don't realize when you're in this media thing and stuff like that, these people that are in the background just kind of place you together, and you have to make it work. So I'm really happy to hear that it was a positive experience for you.
Oh, it was. Yeah. Of course, Ray Peters was the first co-anchor that I worked with, and of course he had been at KXXV since it signed on the air. He started with them doing sports, and then 4 years prior to my coming, he'd started working in news. He'd switched over to be a news anchor, but he decided not to re-sign his contract in September of 2001. So you know what happened in September of 9/11. So, and we had hired another anchor at that point.
What
so
was
I was solo anchoring, and that was really such a surreal time.
Did he stop because of that? I mean, was it just hard for him?
No. Okay. He was just done with broadcasting.
Okay,
he was ready to get it. He was just ready to move on to something different. He's had a wonderful career with Scott and White. So, and everyone, I don't, stay in as close a contact with him.
I got you.
But I always wish him happy birthday on his birthday in November. So we're all.
I was going to say, you make a good point about what happened in that time. But were you ever put in a situation where you had to deliver some hard news? Because I feel like when you're on TV, you have to keep it together. Well, you know what I mean?
And there is a. Right. And talking about 9/11, that kind of reminded me of that, where in news, you have to kind of build this wall and separate yourself from the reality in a way of what you're reporting. Yeah. Or I'd just be a puddle every day. If you really internalize and realize the heartache and the heartbreak that some of these stories are affecting folks, it's hard. And in a way, I thought, I don't like this about me, that I can kind of harden myself to that and sort of detach, I guess, from that. But it will catch up with you.
Really?
And that is something that I learned after 9/11. I remember, we were just in the frenzy of reporting locally what we could, when all that happened. And, the American psyche was having a hard time just wrapping their heads around the level of evil.
Yeah.
That could fly planes into a building and kill thousands of innocent people. I mean, just the whole thing. But you're so busy working and reporting and doing, you don't have a time to really think about it.
Okay.
But I remember being at home at lunch. I was home alone. I had the TV on, and I was just flicking through. I thought, I don't want to see news. And I flicked it over to, I think it was the Outdoor Channel. And it was a show about Alaska gold mining, of all things. Yeah. And they're showing how to pan for gold and the mountains and the beauty. And I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, of course, at the time we were all kind of brought together by all the congressmen on the steps of the Capitol that sang "God Bless America." If you remember all that happening back then. And just the beauty of this country and how we all had this feeling, nothing is the same. Nothing's ever going to, it was like an innocence had been taken from us. Right. And I'm standing in my kitchen alone and just boo-hooing, bawling, weeping. And I realized that just had to happen.
Yeah, totally.
And we had a wonderful producer, young man. Yeah. 10 o'clock producer, and I can't remember now what the story was. It wasn't the Nadal Hassan shooting. It was something that had, and he told me, he said, I got home the other night. He goes, and I just started crying. Right. And I said, you have to do that because first responders deal with such horrible things. And I always will praise our first responders, our police, how they put their lives on the line every day for folks. And they see and experience stuff that we can't imagine. Right. But people in the media do too. Right. And they have to, and he told me, he said, but I think it was healthy. And I said, it was, and don't be ashamed of that because we have to decompress sometime. It will eventually catch up. But you asked about a really personal story, and it did happen where a high school classmate of mine was killed in a car wreck. Oh. And it was on Valentine's Day, the one where they ran into the SUV ran into the bus from. Was that over there in Abbott or something? Or it was a rainy day. It was Valentine's Day. Yeah. And it was
Zachary?
Brenda Doubelbauer. Oh, Doubelbauer. She was anyway, and her son and my son at Midway High School were good friends. Yeah. And when it was somebody, and that I realized in the newsroom who it was who owned the SUV. Oh, wow. And then I ended up singing at the funeral. Right. So, there was part of that. I said, that's Bruce, crazy. And that's where I said, Bruce, you read this story, and so, sometime, but that is probably the closest personal
how do you
contact that I had with that story.
How did Ann Harder shield her emotions when delivering like these really tragic stories on TV? Because you guys always have to report like murders and stuff like that, and maybe, you know, sexual assault cases and stuff.
Well, yes, and that was one thing that I kind of felt like I was put there to mitigate some of that, because there were some stories that were not good at all.
Totally.
And some of our young reporters, they would write just, well, this is what happened. I said, no. You have to think in terms of a mom is standing in the kitchen, the TV is on, her 7-year-old is there.
Right.
The 7-year-old is hearing that. So you got to figure out how to write that to where we understand what's going on. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
there were like, it could be in the...
Well, it's the news.
During the testimony of the trial, he pulled her panties down or something like that. I said, we cannot say that.
Oh, okay.
Because that 7-year-old's go, Mommy, he did what?
Yeah.
You know? So I would tell our producers and our reporters, I said, just always think in terms of my beloved, 5-year-old niece could be hearing this.
Yeah.
How does this need to be written to where she's not just...
So is that how it works as you guys as anchors? So somebody writes the story for you? Like, I mean, you guys have probably like younger journalists.
We were the last line of defense for what was going out over the air.
Okay.
And so really what Bruce and I did for, the bulk of our career was editors. I mean, we would report sometimes, but we were taking in what our local reporters had written or our producers had written. And reading it, making sure we understood it.
Oh, okay.
Because if we didn't understand it, how were we going to communicate that to the viewer that they understand it? And that was the beauty of it, having a lot of eyes looking at stories, because you can get in trouble legally. There have been plenty of TV stations that have been sued over this or that or the other.
Alleged.
So I mean that's pretty much the old word allegedly.
Before we get sued, I don't have money for a lawyer right now.
Always use the word allegedly.
Yes.
But I mean those were the kind of things that I would kind of
that's cool
always
to know.
Be aware.
Yeah, and that's cool to know, because a lot of people don't realize, like, so if you did report like you said, you're the last line of defense, if you will, and everybody will blame you if something was either misinterpreted. Like, no, listen, I'm 30 years old. I have never knew in the world that there was somebody who wrote what you guys reported. You know what I mean? I always thought that's
we just make it look like we're just telling you what's happening.
We're reading the prompter. But see, nobody knows that. So when you're saying Susie Q beat the crap out of Stephen O or whatever the case is, and that wasn't what was everybody will think that that's what you falsely reported. You know what I mean? So is that the case in most stations?
Sometimes have Bruce come back on it, and I'll come in. We have some of the funniest things that happen. Some funny copy that was written that we would just get so tickled at.
Right. Were you ever put in a situation where you got backlash for something that you reported?
Well, I'm trying to. No, I mean, obviously nothing that just really jumps out.
How could she say that? Like, she doesn't know the story type thing. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, we try. I mean, we certainly tried it.
Yeah.
And if we got something wrong, which, because it is a medium where you want to get it out and get it first, but you want to be sure that it's right. If something was done wrong, then we'd correct it.
Yeah.
Or we'd run a retraction, and I could say in the 25 years, I can only think of a handful of times that I read a story saying, we reported this and this was not right, and we want to, not very often, because there are a lot of people that were looking at the news before it went out there, and so
at that point, do you have an opportunity to go back and say, hey, we misreported this, and this is what really happened?
Or and in a lot of cases, it just new information comes out.
Oh, okay,
and that's why it's so crucial that you attribute.
Yeah,
that it was never supposed to be. Ann Harder said so and so said that. It was police report that.
Oh, okay. It's about using your words.
According to the whatever, you're always that's attribution.
Yeah.
I mean, you attribute.
Take that note. Yeah.
Right. Somebody
else using that.
And I know it's a Fox thing, but it truly is right, and that the whole we report, you decide. It's not, they weren't hiring me to give my opinion about stuff.
Okay.
They were hiring me to report what
news.
happened.
Right.
And a good news story is going to have conflict.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have two sides, maybe more sides than two.
Yeah.
And I always kind of said, if I'm doing a story and I've got both sides on,
Yeah.
and both people are like, well, you did me wrong. Well, you weren't fair. If both sides are telling me I wasn't fair, then I probably hit it right on the head, you know?
Okay.
I was probably right where it needed to be.
Right.
But yeah, because and there's been a lot of criticism of journalists and mainstream media for being advocates for one side, for one political point of view or another, and it's justified,
right?
Because I think what's happened, people don't trust what they see, or they find their own little echo chamber that mirrors what they think.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so and I think on the local level, it's more still pure journalism.
Yeah, I got
probably more likely than even what you get from the national scene.
You guys have to be like you're a lot more innocent than they perceive. Okay, you're simply just reporting the news. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the point. I mean, that's what they hired us to do to report what happened.
Yeah.
To let both sides tell their point of view, and but there are so many ways to massage a story, and that's the thing about television. I'll never forget. It was an interesting situation where. This was a long time ago. It was okay, and it's where a picture says 1,000 words. Yeah, and the creative aspect of television happens in the editing booth. Okay, because what shot is put where can change the whole meaning of the story. Okay, so this is a very simple thing. Totally. Troops were heading out for somewhere. And the wife of a soldier, embracing, oh, goodbye, whatever. Yeah. And then a commanding officer, she, but what she had done, what had really happened was she had gone to the wife and tapped her and said, come over here, your husband's over here. Yeah. Did that. The way it came out on the air was embrace. And then the officer was consoling her. Oh, okay. Not at all how it happened. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. You have to be very careful what you're watching, because something as simple as a shot being put in a different place changed the meaning of
the whole narrative of
what
everything.
happened.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Simple thing.
You know what? Is there any behind the scenes things that you could tell us about like news stories and stuff like that? Like, is there anything that you guys ever talk about outside of the reporting, standpoint and everything? You know what I mean? Kind of, I don't know, is anything scandalous ever happened behind the scenes, if you will? Well, we want to know, Ann. We're curious.
I'm just gonna say my motto was, I want to be the last to know. Oh. I did not want to be privy to any scandalous whatever, and
because this is such a small town. Do you see what I'm saying?
It is a very small town,
and people talk. Okay.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah. And there have been plenty of really scandalous things that have happened in local television. Yeah, and that we'd need another 4 or 5 days to talk about that. Know, and it was a very big deal that happened a number of years ago, where one anchor was kind of left and the husband was looking for her, and anyway, all that to say,
it's juicy what goes on behind the scenes.
And I kind of got into a little argument with an AP. I was a stringer for AP, and they wanted me to do this story, and I said, I have promised the husband in this scandalous situation I was not going to report it, and I said I'm not going to do that because it had all gotten settled, but it had become this big tabloid thing called Anchors Away, and where an anchor had run off with not going to get into all that because this family has put their lives back together, and anyway, it's all, but it was really disturbing to me at the time to see how something that was just a problem between a couple of people could become literally an international story. Right. Because a current affair, which was a tabloid-esque yellow journalism kind of show, had picked up on it. They were camping out in front of these people's houses. I mean, it was a major story. Okay. Even my idol, Paul Harvey, had even reported it. And I remember sitting, I would watch the on CNN, I was watching the end of the president's speech, and the reporter came back and she does, and in Waco, Texas, it's Anchors Away. And I thought, how can this story have become a national story? So all that to say, and this was before I ever got into television. I was still in radio at the time. But this AP report said, and he said, news anchors are public figures, and they are held to a higher standard. And so they have to, anything like that, they're fair game.
Right, for sure.
So I've always kind of realized that and tried to live my life, circumspectly.
So you were never going to take the bait. Like, you were never going to, I guess, just, lower yourself down to report, I guess, or, trash somebody's reputation just for the sake of being, a popular reporter.
Well,
is that fair to say?
Yeah, right. And it was somebody I knew personally. Right, and he had called me and said, Ann, please don't report that. I said, okay. I'm not going to, because it's all settled. I mean, they found her. Right. Everything was taken care of.
Yeah.
And I'm being very cagey about this story.
It's okay.
But anyway, it was many years ago. Right. And they were able to put their lives back together, happy and retired and all that.
I think that says a lot about you. I think that says a lot about you as a reporter, as a person, because a lot of people would, really would take the bait,
just
if you
jump
will.
on it.
Jump on it, I'm going to be the one that... And what helps is that you knew this person personally. You know what I mean?
Right.
Did you have a lot of say-so in saying, I'm not reporting this, I don't care what you do?
Yeah, because I did the radio news for WACO, and I was like, if I'm not going to report it, I just decided I wasn't going to report it.
Okay, I got you.
I didn't really have I had a program director, but we never talked about news content or that kind of thing. Now, in television, whole different can of work. I mean, you have editorial meetings, story ideas are run through the news director. I mean, it is very much a collaborative process with what stories get reported and so forth. But I'm trying to think if there was a situation where I just said, I am just not going to.
Yeah. I would
report that. I think they respected my opinion.
Yeah, that's good.
And I can't think of anything during my television.
I don't know, because if there's somebody that I don't like and they got involved in some really big sex scandal, I would totally love to report that. You know what I mean?
I'd be all over that.
I would be all over that. Oh yeah, he really was gay. You know what I mean? We knew it. Put him in my anyway. You know what? So the news career is over. I mean, you retired.
It's not over.
Oh, okay.
Well, I did. I retired 2 years ago, and a year into my retirement, the news director called and said, Ann,
we need you back.
Would you come back and just do 2 stories a month?
Okay.
And I said, on what? Well, just report on things in Texas. And I thought, well, that's general.
Yeah.
How to be able to. So that's now a year into traveling Texas with Ann Harder.
Right.
Yes, Richard Carr Motors sponsors. So and
shout out Richard Carr Motors.
That's right.
There you go.
You're right. And so it's been a delight. It's been so much fun to go and I call it Ann's bucket list, because I've gone and done stories, places that I've intended to go and visit and hadn't had the time to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Or places that I just want local people to know this would be a fun place to go for a day trip or whatever, things to do. And anyway, the one that's coming up next, we do them twice a month, first and third Tuesdays of the month during the 6 o'clock newscast, the second half hour. So it airs between 6:30 and 7. Traveling Texas with Ann Harder, and I went to the governor's mansion.
There you go.
And I'd always wanted to tour the governor's mansion.
Was it hot? Did you love it?
It's beautiful. It's lovely. It's an antique home that was built by Abner Cook. Okay. And the governors, one of their golden retrievers was running around, came up to me. So we've got video. Peaches greeting me.
Hey, that's my jail name, Ann Harder. That's my jail name, Peaches.
There's a Peaches. Okay,
if I ever go to jail, it's going to be Big Peaches. I said that, right? Okay. So now you have your own podcast with Rogue Media. Okay.
Yes.
So the decision to go from being a news anchor, you retire, and now you have a podcast, Central Texas Living.
Well, Central Texas.
You said that, yeah.
Central Texas Life.
Central Texas Life. Gotcha. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Like she's quoting us for health insurance. That's what the podcast is about. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your podcast?
I'm not clever. Come up with the public affair. That is such a clever name.
And this is a very rated X name. Okay.
I know. It's got a little double entendre. I understand that.
That's why I'm scared that Bruce Geeson won't come on.
I'm just not clever that way. But I do love talking to people and hearing their stories and hearing the wonderful things that they do. And so now I need to have you come be a guest on Central Texas Life.
I don't want to trash Central Texas Life, though. That's the thing. Okay.
I
feel like I would poison the show, right?
I think I can handle you.
No, yeah, she's got it. I would love to be a guest sometime. You want to know what? I am so grateful that you got to be a guest here on To the Public Affair. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. But before we wrap up, can you talk to us a little bit about what's next in your career? Maybe a little bit about your personal life. Like, do you have time? I mean, you're doing all this other stuff. Like, you're still working.
I'm really busy. Yeah. Well, and I've always been a girl who can't say no.
Right.
And, and then when I retired, it's like, oh, I'm retired. I have time for that.
Yeah,
well,
totally.
So I've got to learn how to say no to stuff. But I have some volunteer jobs that are really big ones. And one is with the Waco Symphony Association Board. I'm going to be their incoming board president.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling a little bit daunted by that. There's a lot involved, but I love classical music, and I love the fact that Waco has this gem of an orchestra, and so I want to. We got an amazing board, a large, hardworking board, but people who are passionate about keeping this wonderful element.
I got you.
That makes Central Texas such a great place to live. Having a symphony orchestra is, that's crucial to a lot of people.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
And I want to invite you to come to our concerts.
I'm in. Hello. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going.
So yeah.
I'm gonna get like one of those really nice outfits like in the Met Gala. Okay.
There you go. You can dress
super
up.
sophisticated.
Waco Hall. Yeah.
Yes, and then hopefully Bruce Geeton will be there, and I'll look super hot. And it's.
I'll introduce you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll introduce you. But so I'm staying busy with volunteer stuff, and I do some singing around town. And,
good.
So I have just
a little songstress. I told you guys she was a queen. Okay?
Well, yeah, of course, not country music. I do kind of jazz, old standards.
Oh, really? Okay. Are you singing
American
around
song.
town and stuff? Or?
I do some, yeah.
Different. Aaron, hello, we need to see
different
that.
Groups.
I would have never caught you as that type of person that sings.
Oh, yes. I've sung the national anthem.
Really?
A lot. Yeah. Well, and some of it was, the news lady, she sings. And so they'd ask me to do and then I'd sing the national and they go, you can't sing. So anyway.
I want to see, but I have one last question for you. What's the biggest, it sounds like I really misconceived you. Okay. What's the biggest, well, in the beginning, right? Like I thought she'd be more stiff. You know what I mean?
I'm very ordinary. You could call me queen.
What's the biggest misconception about you, Anne? Was there something that surprised people about you ever in life? Because you're mainly known as like this poised news anchor on TV. You know what I mean?
Right.
Always got it together,
and
makeup on point,
in my head, that's not. Like a lot of people, I can go through periods where it seems like everything I do has just messed up. I just like everything I touch turns to dust. I was like, I'm supposed to be Ann Harder, who can but it's like no.
It's regular,
so So I have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of.
I got you.
But I want to do things right. I want to honor the Lord really in what I do.
Course.
I mean, first and foremost, and be somebody. This is something I heard Holly Tucker say on your show. He said, "I want to be something that girls would look up to and want to emulate." And I thought that's so precious because that really, and they do. And she's
great. She's a queen. I love her.
She is a queen. That's why I've known her since she was like 10 years old.
Really?
We sang on gospel shows together, and I mean, even when she was a little girl, it's like this gal has got pipes.
Wow.
I mean, she can sing, so. To see what's happened. Oh yeah. Well, to see what's happened with her, her singing is not a surprise to me.
Yeah,
at all.
for sure.
But she, yeah.
Yeah, no, I got you. I think a lot of people think that we are just. I'm the same way. I just go home and go to bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're just ordinary people.
But what's great too is that you sound like you're your own worst critic. Which I think is very humbling because I'm the same way. So and you have to be.
Right, and you have to. There's a balance there too, because sometimes you can be too hard on yourself.
Totally.
And what I have found through all these years of broadcasting is that sometimes you say something and it,
Listen, I don't regret anything I said. Okay?
That's right. Yeah. Just
Bruce,
slip of the tongue or what, something come out right. Like Bruce's big one was he called it a space shuttle instead of space shuttle one time. I can say that on a podcast, can I?
Well, anyway. I have to poke fun. I was very open on the show that I did just go on a date with a news person. So I was
did you?
I was, yeah.
Okay, well.
I put his business out there. No, that's not. Okay. He's really nice. Tell you after this time. But anyway, and it was really, really nice having you onto the show. I really appreciate you coming on.
You are a joy. You're so much fun.
Thank you. I'm trying. We're just getting used to this new environment here, this new atmosphere. So it was really great.
Isn't it lovely?
It's really great.
Thank you again,
yes,
Mike
I'm really happy
Hamilton
that you were
Allison.
my first guest in the new studio that we have here, and only more to come. And I really am grateful that I finally got to have you onto the public affair. It was really an honor to interview an interviewer. a news reporter. You know what I mean? A legend in town. An absolute queen. So thank you again so much. Thank you to everybody who tuned into this episode of The Public Affair. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before we go, I definitely want to give a shout out to just a few more of our sponsors of the show. This episode is brought to you by Soko Soccer Academy with Dominic Gutierrez and Ariana Gutierrez, located at 3304 Franklin Drive. They offer team, small group, and individual skill training, and they have elite skills training to make your kids a superb star athlete. They have open play on Mondays and Wednesdays for 16 and older at 8:30 p.m. with Coach Morrow, aka Silly, I call him Silly Buns because he is. Okay, only $5 to play. Make sure you follow on Facebook at Soko Soccer Academy and on Instagram at Soko Soccer 254. Thank you so much, Dominic and Ariana, for sponsoring this episode of The Public Affair. Of course, Sapoyo Box and Audio with my boy Jeffrey Monreal, home for all your LED needs and auto accessories, installation of stereos, door speakers, and audio systems. He also specializes in building custom subwoofer enclosures and much more. He's definitely a jack of all trades. Your one-stop shop to get everything done in one roof. To Jeffrey Monreal, thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of The Public Affair, bro. You're the GOAT. Of course, the fat boy Michelada and Botana, my boy Junior Banda, who provides the best Michelada and Botana plates for yourself or for a party. He has a menu of a ton of different items, including Botana bowls, chamoy, pickles, and more. You have to try it. It's really good.
Sounds great.
It's delicious, darling. He's locally operated, so make sure you get the best and not the rest. Follow on Facebook and Instagram at Fatboy Michelada and Botana and place your order now. Junior, thank you so much for being a longtime sponsor of The Public Affair. And of course, to Sonia Childers with Sonia's Event Planning and Rentals. And she's an event planner that specializes in weddings, quinceañeras, baby showers, corporate events, and more. Appointments only, so make sure you schedule a consultation at shoulders1994@yahoo.com or call the number on the screen to book your first consultation. Take the stress of planning your event off your shoulders and let Sonia handle the rest. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of The Public Affair, girl. Thank you guys again so much for watching this episode. I've got more of The Public Affair on the way. Of course, to Miss Ann Harder for coming on to The Public Affair. She let me be me. I felt comfortable. I was really happy. Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you. And
we will return the favor.
We're going to do that. You can catch me on a future episode of her podcast.
That's right. I love this cross-promotion thing.
I love it. And you know what? I'm coming in guns blazing. Okay, Ann?
That'll be fine.
Yes. And don't forget, darling, to always keep it between us.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.